morning, everybody. It's Captain Trucker here in the provinces. Please subscribe if you haven't, by the way. And thank you to all the new subscribers. I want to talk a little bit about in this video about living environments in the Philippines and other random musings from my life here. So I posted some stuff like on my community section about how you can live here for like $600 to $2,600 per month with varying budgets and varying lifestyles and so forth. I find it's good to have a good balance and not be so extreme. I've kind of done things extreme in life, so I'll either live in really nice neighborhoods or really poor neighborhoods. Live in Beverly Hills or live on Skid Row, so to speak. I've done that. Before I moved to the Philippines years ago, I don't know, in my 30s at some point, I was sleeping in my car for a long time to save money, And I got kind of used to that kind of hardcore living, I guess, and you kind of feel like you're on the outskirts of society. But then, I don't know, you kind of changed that. I don't know why I brought that up, but for like retirees, if people haven't been out of the country before or only been to maybe, I don't know, parts of Mexico like Cancun or maybe Canada or something. If you're going to retire in the Philippines for the first time, and you're an older person, I'd probably recommend you should probably live in a condo and kind of stay in that bubble. There is something about collective poverty in your environment that can kind of affect your psyche, especially if you're an older person, especially if you're the type of person that gets affected by your environment, or you just want to help people, because you'll see many different types of plights of concerns and poverties in these countries, so you just want to keep that in mind. And condos can range in price. People tell me, they're like, well, you should go live in Makati or live in a high-rise, because I don't really want to be that isolated in a sense. I mean, it's nice to have nice stuff, it's nice to live in good places, but I don't know, to me it's just I don't see what the point of going to the Philippines and living in that place, what is it, BGC or Makati. It's almost like living in like Los Angeles, except it's sort of like Philippines, but not really. It's just kind of a city. But I guess a lot of people are doing that. That's the big deal. Go live in Makati. So I'm in Negros Occidental right now. And there's other parts of the Philippines, like in Bohol or Palawan. I like El Nido. Those are nice areas. Even Puerto Princesa in Palawan, that's a nice city. It's much cleaner than the rest of the Philippine cities I've been to. Much cleaner than Cebu City or Bacolod and Manila, definitely, just from what I've seen there. Yeah, everybody, living environment can take an effect on you. You got the squatter situation, obviously more in these countries. A lot of half-built houses type of thing, dilapidated houses, people camping out. And that's cool. I can do that for a while. I can do the whole homeless thing. I always said I was a professional homeless person, especially being a truck driver. You tend to get used to sleeping in parking lots, urinating in bottles, sleeping on the side of the road, sleeping in parking lots. Did I say parking lots? I think I did. Well, anyway, a truck stop, that's pretty much like a parking lot anyway, but there's someone walking behind me. Being part of a community, I guess that's a big deal for a lot of people. Well, it is. You should do that, I guess. The thing is, if you have kids and you have a family, you do need to sort of do that. Otherwise, what are you going to do, You're going to sleep in a parking lot with your kids? You can't really do that. They don't really have a choice, so you sort of have to build them a house in the community, right? With the Mr. Jones's neighborhood. Because unfortunately, the way the world is, they judge us on, appearances and money and where we live and the neighborhood we're in, the Joneses and all that good stuff. The kids don't really have a choice. you know, kids don't really have a deep understanding of social psychology and philosophy. And maybe other people are just going to be like, oh, they're the poor kids. So like as parents, I mean, you sort of have to put your kids hopefully in a nice neighborhood, I guess. That's how it works. So there is this idea that people who live in the Philippines can't afford to live in their own native culture. I suppose that's true for portions of the retirees maybe and others, but not for everybody. But, you know, environments do affect you. So I was saying that for like older people, if you're coming to a country like this for the first time, and maybe you're somewhat of a sensitive person, I would say probably stay in the condo. Or, you know, if you marry a Filipina, you can probably buy a lot of land, and if you got some savings, maybe throw up a house for $30,000 or $40,000, possibly less, depending on your budget. Obviously, you got to be careful, you know, make sure the land is good and the title. There's a lot of kind of dicey stuff going on there with that, so get a lawyer to verify the title and so forth. And obviously, foreigners can't own land. Your wife would have to, but I do believe there's ways you can sort of own the house. But you got to keep in mind with real estate here, guys, it's not always so easy to sell places, because I've known guys that like they'll build a house for like $60,000 and you know they're $70,000 or $50,000. They supposedly worth $300,000 or $400,000, but there's no one to sell it to. So I'm sure it's possible, but don't expect to be like flipping houses down here, so to speak. I'm not really like a real estate expert. This is just my kind of general observations, but so there's different options for different budgets, guys, in different environments, and that's the fact. So you can do it like off your social security check, but just don't go like McMillionaire style, as they say. Try to stay realistic, you know, because that money, even with inflation around the world, even in the Philippines, like prices have gone up. Don't expect to be living like a king, so to speak. Live like a king off $1,500 a month. Go to the Philippines. Well, you can, I guess. Not a king, though. God. I mean, I did a whole videos on those. You know, sometimes those guys get in bad moods. Because they realize they're not kings, number one. They realize their $1,500 didn't buy them royalty status. You know, things move slower in these countries, and I think older men get impatient sometimes, for sure. I mean, they've lived a long life and they get irritable sometimes. So you gotta have good balance too, guys, when you're living in these places. I mean, you gotta have friends and make sure you're exercising every day, or as much as you can. And try to even do some traveling, you know, if you stay in the same spot. I mean, obviously, if you've never been here, don't buy anything online. I would probably avoid pre-selling condos and that sort of stuff. Just come out here and kind of nomad around for a little while and meet people, and eventually if you want to buy a place, I'm sure it's possible. You'll figure it out. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with condos, guys. There's nothing wrong with living in high rises, and there's nothing wrong with living in you know, BGC or Makati. You know, these men, I swear, you guys, like 90% of the time, whenever I hear stuff about foreigners or retirees and Filipinas, it's always money, 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 money. And it's like, my God, those men. I mean, if we're basing our entire relationships off money, I mean, you're making it like a transaction, and then, you know, some of these guys are really surprised, and you hear these like scam stories and stuff like this. I mean, my goodness, where are the real? I'm just joking, it's terrible. But I mean, God, guys, if all you're thinking about in a relationship is money, I mean, are we really surprised that, like I said, people get in like not the best situations? Well, I guess that's a thing, like maybe when you're older, like 65, and I don't know, you've worked a lot and you're just tired, and you've maybe already been through life's ups and downs, you've already had a divorce, you've been through midlife crises, and maybe you're just tired, and it's just like, listen, we'll go live in this house. I want a wife, 5 foot this and this color hair. I mean, like you're treating it like a transaction, man. And these dating sites, my God. In these dating sites, there's a whole like crew of scammers that crawl these things on both sides, I would imagine. So I keep telling people, like, I wouldn't be too dependent on the whole dating site thing in the pursuit of love necessarily. I mean, it's a good way to like meet a connection like with people just as like an initial contact, but I mean, be careful like falling in love online and really making promises to people even if you've talked to them for months. I mean, I've heard stories about guys that have talked to like a Filipina maybe for 6 months or so, and then they get ready to come out here and suddenly all of a sudden the Filipinas faking like car accidents and stuff like that. I mean, that's terrible, but that kind of stuff does happen, so you got to be careful of that. And that's really with any country. I wouldn't say that's exclusively to the Philippines. I've said this before in other videos. I mean, I think a lot of the negative news about Filipinas and the Philippines in general has been perpetuated and propagated by different people in public relations, whether it's the internet or the news or whatever, word of mouth. There's a lot of ugly stereotypes out there, ladies and gentlemen. And I think that foreigners, especially older men, you guys got to be more responsible and start using your brains more. All right, I think some of these guys going into, like I said, these transactional style of relationships because you want a pretty Filipina decades younger than you to put up on your wall, I guess, to show off to your friends. I mean, don't be surprised if it doesn't end up being the best relationship. That's all I'm saying. And, where's the love, man? Where's the real romance? Where are the real Casanovas left? I'm just joking. I say that because, like, I mean, I used to live in a rock and roll studio. I had an RV and I used to hang out with a lot of rock and rollers back when I used to play drums up in the Bay Area. This place was in just south of Oakland, a city called Hayward, California. But anyway, my friend ran a studio there and we used to hang out there. Actually, sort of unofficially kind of lived there, sort of, not really, for a couple of years. But yeah, that was a good time. Anyway, there was this guy, this older black dude that he stayed in the studio upstairs. He was into like R&B and stuff. He played bass. Pretty talented musician, talented guy, good at editing. We used to call him the Hitman because he used to play that game, the Hitman, on PlayStation a lot. But anyway, he was like poor, like a poor 40-something-year-old black man. We used to always joke because he would always be with all these like fine, beautiful women and stuff, and and this guy was bald. He had no money. But I mean, the point is like, he was a real lover, man. He understood the psychology of romance and all that good stuff, He wasn't going into it just like, hey, I got a pile of money, let me go find a pretty woman type of thing. I mean, I guess you can do that. But again, when we're going into love and intimacy on this material transactional ground, we hear scam stories, don't we? Duh! Anyway, guys, if you're going to do the dating sites, just make contacts. Hello. But I say come out here, go to the local churches, get involved in the community, and meet people that way. There's always a single woman or a Filipino looking for a husband, or a good foreign victim. No, I'm just joking. Or a good foreign man. Hey guys, look at the guys on the motorcycle. Nice guys. The Filipinos are very friendly with the camera. I pull out the camera like when I'm in Houston or like in Texas, and like I was at the airport and I'm going back and looking at the footage, and I get these guys like giving me like dirty looks and stuff in the background. Of course they wouldn't do that to my face, but I mean, it's just people are very tight. I think maybe in different parts of America people don't like people just casually filming in public, but oh well, it's the public ground. If you don't want to be filmed, stay in the house, I guess, right? That's the way it goes. I like these little trucks, by the way. I see a lot of these here. You see that? It's a nice little truck. All right, guys, we'll get more in depth about the dynamic of the older retiree and the Filipinas in later videos, and try to get more specific information about living in different places. Like I said, you know, you can survive on a budget out here between 600 to 2,600 US dollars per month. Or sorry, maybe like 800 to 2,600 US dollars per month. It's still possible, okay? I did post stuff in my community section sort of outlining some of that. But obviously, you know, you want more money. I mean, don't expect them to be living some lavish lifestyle off $800 or $1,000 a month, certainly. All right, guys, it's Captain Trucker. I'll talk to you soon. Please subscribe. Bye-bye.